Hi there. Welcome to Let's Innovate for Vegas, episode 9. We are recording today on the 21st of April, 2023. And today I'm very happy to have Priscilla Scott with me to talk about the recently brand new, grand opened Becker Technology Center. And I'm shortening the name a little bit, so we'll correct that. But the Ernest and Becker, Ernest.
It's okay.
I'm going to leave that in just because I'm silly.
And Betty Becker Family Technology Center and Recreation Park, but we call it Becker Tech for short.
There you go. So I've asked the expert, and she has delivered as I would hope. So welcome Priscilla Scott to the show today, and I look forward to our conversation. Welcome, Priscilla.
Thank you.
So first of all, you've corrected me marvelously. Thank you for that, because I have gotten it wrong like every time when I just say the Becker Center, and people have no idea about that either, which is something we'll talk about. But how have you been? What are you doing? I know the grand opening just occurred. So you work for the city. You were involved with the Nevada Recreation and Park Society, and you're running the Becker Tech now. What else should we know?
Well, one, thank you for having me on here. I'm super excited. This has been a great project to be involved with, and to get to see it come to life has been amazing. The city of Las Vegas takes a lot of pride in being iconic and being the first, and this building is definitely delivering up to that standard. And I have been with the city of Las Vegas. I started as a child participant when I was like 10 years old. And then the city of Las Vegas gave me my first job in the Department of Parks and Rec. So I tell everybody I'm a Parks and Rec kid. Like, I've been here for life. And I've done other jobs outside of the city of Las Vegas, but I've always come back here. This is home to me. So, yeah, I just love the work that we do through Parks and Recreation, and the city always, years ago, they simplified our mission statement. Instead of having something that nobody could remember, our purpose is building community to make life better. And it's so easy for me to remember it because that's exactly how I came to grow up through the system, and now I get to give back to the same community that raised me to be who I am today. So that's super exciting. And I initially took over this project the day that they poured slab. Our director came to me and said I would oversee the interdepartmental team through construction and implementation and get to be the recreation coordinator that got this facility once it opened. So that's been super exciting. I feel like it's been my baby since day one. I have pictures from the day that slab was poured and literally every week by week milestone that we hit. So super exciting.
The evolution of revolution.
Yes.
So, and I say that because is this the first such community center in Las Vegas? As in, it's aimed at being a makerspace of sorts. So is this the first one? I have not heard of anything like this.
It is. And this facility, it's the first tech center. It's the first time that we've embraced technology in the recreational environment. Like, we've dabbled a little bit. We have some STEAM workshops and we have camps throughout the city that touch on something that we do here in this facility. But it was the first time that the city of Las Vegas merged it all together and committed to fusing technology with recreation and embracing this new age and saying, okay, it's here to stay, and this is what we're doing to support the communities in that. So it's probably one of the most iconic projects that I've heard of, even on a national standard. You know, you hear about facilities that have eSports arenas, or you hear about facilities that embrace STEAM programming or STEM projects, but it's rare that you get like a one-stop shop.
Yeah, and in fact, I was just I was at the Blackfire Center. I don't know if it's at the Tech Park though at UNLV, and they have a makerspace, which is interesting, but. The Becker Center has more 3D printers from what I saw, I think there's, well, you can tell me the number, but for being a community center, it is impressively equipped, I guess. It's a great resource. I was pleasantly surprised when I was there for the grand opening that there is so much made available to, I'm going to guess, all ages.
It is. So we have programming from 3 years old all the way up through our active adult 50 plus communities as well. So
Right.
we try to make it inclusive for all.
I always, so I used to work for Intel. I was in the Maker Innovator group, so I traveled around to many places in participating as a mentor or an organizer in many hackathons. And I always would tell people I have literally worked with people of all ages from around 10 years old to 70. A 70-year-old couple came to a hackathon in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and they just wanted to try building a thing, and they did, which was fun. So you're never too young or old to just to take an idea and turn it into something, which I think is a core thing that we often there's a saying that social media has killed boredom. When you're bored and you're like, I wonder if I could make a thing, and you have the resources to do it. I think that's an important part of our future. So it's good to see that being enabled.
Yeah.
So how many 3D printers are there? I think there was like 6.
We currently have 8, and we process of a few more.
You're dropping out. Can you hear me? That's weird. All right, so we're back from a little audio difficulties. But it's good that we can now talk about, because I was talking about how I worked with people from 10 to 70, but we can now talk about the joy of media production and podcasting, and you know a little bit of something about that.
Yes.
So there are media resources at the Becker Center, and you are making use of some of them at the moment. And we had a little weirdness, but do you? I asked you this earlier before we started recording, but so tell me first of your personal podcast experiences, or what do you? How much podcasting have you done?
So I haven't done any podcasting whatsoever. And it was interesting because through my role with the Nevada Recreation and Park Society, a board member and I, who happens to be a good friend, we were talking about starting a podcast through all the things that we've seen. And we started kind of looking into microphones, but then, the pandemic kind of got in the way because although the rest of the world stopped, we're in government. So we were managing the effects of the pandemic as government employees, and we were really, really busy. And so it kind of went on the back burner. So coming out of COVID, when I was given this opportunity, I'm like, oh, we'd already talked about starting one.
Sure. And it's amazingly easy to do just audio. And so people ask me, why don't you do a video podcast? I'm like, well, it's easy to get started with audio. It's certainly, as you say, just a microphone and something to talk about is a good start. Whereas cameras and if there are media resources at the Becker Center as they become available and whatnot. But video production there's lights, there's cameras, there's action, there's you want to look nice, you want to have a background. It becomes a production issue. And if you want to do something remote, like Priscilla and I are not in the same room right now. We're in 2 different locations. So if you want to do, if I were to show up there, we can set up a podcast very easily. I have a remote recorder. You have the facilities there already. I can show up in somebody's office, or we can be outside or on the street, so to speak, and with a microphone and interview people. Video, you start to add a lot of stuff. So, but as you will enable audio for young people to learn how to make audio productions there, right?
Yes, we will. We have a fully operational podcast studio and a video production space, and we have the ability to do video with our podcasting setup as well. We just don't have a programming schedule set up quite yet.
Well, everything's new. The grand opening was like a month ago, is it?
So we are 21 days old today.
Right, exactly.
We opened on the 1st.
Right. No, seriously, they did open on April Fool's Day.
We did. And, I thought it was fitting for this because this this whole project, I feel like every step of the way we hit a lot of obstacles and challenges. So initially, this project was designed in 2018, 2019, and it was approved, ready to go. And then when the pandemic hit here in the Valley in March of 2020, it was shelved. And for our department, we had a lot of transition as well. We had leadership changes, we had people retiring. That's when we started to see a lot of mobility in and out of our department. And so it was kind of like forgotten. So in March of 22, when our director said that I was going to be taking over the tech center, and I said, we don't have a tech center. And he's like, well, we're building one. I'm like, what do you mean we're building one? And that project that had been shelved through the pandemic kind of resurfaced. It was like forgotten. And then, we had supply chain issues during construction, and we were having to pivot because everyone who was involved in the initial design of the facility had retired or moved on to a different agency. And so we were all getting this brand new project that had been started by a different team. So there were definitely a lot of challenges that we had to overcome and had to learn the technology. And, with technology, once you get it, it's outdated. So it changes so rapidly. So we felt like once we did come to that April 1st date, that it's like, oh, yeah, that's pretty fitting with everything we went through to get this project up off the ground.
Well, you gotta start somewhere.
Yes.
When I tell these stories sometimes of my own journey, and my journey really began once was I think I was about 5 years old. My dad's father, my grandfather, brought home a Pong game, Atari Pong. And nobody listening to this will know what that is, but it was the first video game you'd hook up to your TV, and you would play Pong, like tennis, with the pixel bouncing back and forth on the screen. And I was totally fascinated by this. And that's where some journeys begin, is that exposure to, even if it's not the most, well, at the time it was pretty modern, but even if you would think, oh, that's just a last year's 3D printer, oh, you're just using an old, whatever computer, it's not the newest, shiniest thing, but that is where it begins. And so the more young people have access to that, because not everybody can own all the latest shiny toys for themselves, but if they can use them, that's where it starts.
Yep, absolutely.
So you're only 21 days old, but are you getting like some people stopping by at least? Or some kids maybe checking it out, or are they excited?
Yes, I jokingly say that we are collecting all the neighborhood kids because once school gets out, they can't get enough of the building. So we do have a mentorship program for the middle school kids that we were going to wait until the fall to implement, but we saw a need to do that now, and we've got a lot of great partners coming on board, different organizations. So we're still actively recruiting mentors for that, but we've got some of our officers from the City of Las Vegas deputy marshals that are in here working with the kids, teaching them how to DJ. We've got some production staff that last week taught the kids. They actually laid down a song and a track and lyrics, and it's pretty cool to watch them come in with just an idea and leave with something tangible. But it's been pretty cool.
And I completely agree. And I always tell people the fun part about, because I used to go to hackathons all the time. I think I said that. And, half the time the projects that they would work on were fun or silly. And the one I always describe is it was at UPenn. There was 1,200 people participating this weekend long. Everybody's staying awake, eating pizza and Red Bull and all that. And somebody designed a ukulele controller for a drone. So he would play chords on the ukulele on stage, and the drone would do tricks. Not very practical, but still a fun weekend, right? So now he knows it can be done.
Yes.
So And so when I was there, I didn't really spend much time because everybody was playing with all the computers, but there's like an eSports section. And I don't, that's all I know. I don't know exactly what's happening there, but
So I
computers,
guess I
eSports.
should share everything that we have going.
That would be
So
cool. Sure.
our facility is one of the smallest parks and rec facilities. It's a little over 5,300 square feet. And for being a small space, we have so many different unique opportunities. We have a maker space, so we have 8 3D printers. We also have the ability for the kids to learn basic coding. We're implementing Sphero and Lego curriculum for some of the early robotics and circuits type of classes. And then we've got some design. They can do like digital design and actually like print out posters and other graphic based materials. And then our esports space is probably one of the most iconic spaces that we have. So we've got PS5s, we have Nintendo, and we also have gaming laptops. And we went with Alienwares for that. But the thing that makes it super cool is we've got bleachers and we have an ability to include the spectators. And it's been great because we're one of the first, not the first, but one of the first government agencies that's taking such a, that's embracing the esports environment and community and bringing it into the facility. And we've talked about our video production space and our podcast studio, but the cool thing is we also have the ability to stream and broadcast our esports events and tournaments. So we put a lot of thought into being able to bring in all of the elements of the technology space, and it carries on into our park. So our park structures, we're the first in the state to have Yelp, YALP. They are technology-based outdoor playground structures. There's music, they light up, they're interactive, so they pick up on the motion, and they're really cool for the kids, and they're innovative. Like they tie into the technology field from inside the building all the way out into the park. And we also have the first ever drone soccer program in the state.
Yeah. Dr. Renee, shout out.
Yes, Dr. Renee. She's been great training our teams and helping us get up off the ground, because we had to learn just when the kids learn that program, they actually learn how to build the drone, code the drone, the controllers, they bind everything. It's a really, really cool process. But as we were getting certified to teach it as well, we had to go through the same exact process as the kids will when they take the course. And it's really such a cool way to look at recreation, because once they get the component of learning, then we put them in a 5v5 format where they actually get to fly the drones and compete, similar to the way you would like actual physical soccer on the ground, but it's their drones that are flying around. So it's really cool.
I think I've said this recently, and this is not about Las Vegas. This is about the age maybe that we're in. There tends to be, I think people try to make things work instead of learning how they work. So I think it's the class or the training, if you will, or the programs are an integral part of learning how these things, instead of just smacking it around until we're like, oh, I got my drone working. You actually understand how it works, or when it comes to gaming, if you can make your own games instead of always playing other things. So I think, and I mentioned there were a couple of stories. So one was the Pong game, but I was a total Lego fanatic, and I mean the actual plastic bricks, right? You mentioned Lego. I don't know if they have a robotics program. It used to be called Mindstorms, I think, but are they doing something with robotics that you're including?
Yes, so they actually have Lego Spike and Prime that build on like the circuits, and it's like the very entry level robotics, and it's similar to the Mindstorms, but it's their classroom version.
Okay.
And the kids learn. The great thing about Lego is, like you, I love Lego growing up. Like, I had every type of, and that was in the days where we had like AOL.com and you had to wait for it to load onto the
Oh, yeah.
internet. Like, I would pull like different little manuals on how to build stuff. It wasn't like all the fun kits that are out now. Like, you actually had to just take all your random Lego pieces and
Yeah.
put them together to build something. But who doesn't know how to use a Lego, right? So
Oh, exactly. And
the Lego curriculum is great.
I inherited my uncle was, I think he was 9 years older than me. I think it was 9 years. So he was still kind of a kid, but I inherited his Legos when he was too cool to play with them. So it was just a big giant tub of no kit, no books, no manuals. So I just would just assemble things and make my own stuff. And so I very rarely would actually follow the directions. I just would make my own stuff, and I would get different, later I added to my collections of little special parts, like little wings and wheels and minifigs on it. And speaking of that, I don't know where it is, but there's a Lego store that just opened here in Vegas. And I want to say it's like down by, it's south somewhere, by the South Tube. I will look that up. But so there's a cool Lego store that has just opened in Las Vegas. But yeah, I used to play with those all the time. So I think Lego. And are you familiar with the Lego letter? Have you ever heard of this?
The Lego letter?
The Lego letter. So if you search on the internet, you will find it eventually. It gets confused with some other things. But in the 70s, it has been verified as authentic as much as it can be 50 years later. But somewhere in the 70s, a letter was included in Lego kits to parents. And I'm paraphrasing, it said, sometimes little boys want to build dollhouses and little girls want to build trucks, and you should let them build what they want to build. And it was very progressive, probably for the time, but I think taken to heart, Legos and robot kits and the ability to do hands-on stuff regardless of any programming from society. Like, oh, you are this identity, you shouldn't be interested in that thing. When that goes out the window and everybody can just do what they want to do, I think you'll see a lot of innovation. A lot of people will be like, I didn't know I could build a robot, and now you do, and that kind of stuff. So I think that's the most exciting part, is that access that can really change an outlook.
No, it really is. And that's been a big part of this project. So this is an older neighborhood. So we generally don't see new innovative projects in parts of our community that tend to be a little bit older. So it's really cool for us to say, hey, older neighborhoods need new things too. And we, like this summer, in addition to just, looking at a neighborhood that's a little bit older community, now we're also offering our drone soccer program to the autism community. And then we have a girls program that's coming, because what we recognize is that in the technology environment, females are very underrepresented. It's a very male-dominated environment. Sure. So we're super excited to be able to say we're not just inclusive in one area, we're literally tackling every area of inclusivity.
And so I, unfortunately, am in the stereotypical perhaps, majority of the tech gender / demographic, whatever. So it's difficult for me to sound like I've seen and done. But in my travels, I get to work with, like I said, kids of all ages. And first of all, I noticed pretty early on there's an unfortunate magical age, probably around 12, where there's just differences that become apparent, but and they become distracting. But younger kids, there doesn't seem to be any problem with, I'm going to go ask that little kid to help me with my project. And you're like, but that's a little girl or that's a little boy. I don't care. I just want my project. It's completely agnostic as far as all this silly social programming of who should be doing what. So there's, it gives hope for the future, because kids love doing what they're doing and they don't have any problem with who they're doing it with. So as long as adults do that too, I think we'll be fine. But it's fun to watch younger people be able to have access to this stuff and then actually do it. Robot competitions, hands-on little Arduino kits that I saw at some coder dojos and stuff. So yeah, so you're going to be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to like, I saw this commercial, the Run Like a Girl commercial.
Yeah.
And they were, have you seen that commercial yet?
Yeah.
And it was super cool because you ask people at first, like, oh, what does it mean? What does it mean? And everybody's kind of wimpy. But then when you ask the young ladies, what does it mean to run like a girl? And they're fierce. That's what comes to mind when we think about like the inclusivity of the females in the technology space. Because let me tell you, I've got female staff that they just kick butt. And not that our male staff does not kick butt too, but they're just different. They're not better than or worse than. They shine in some areas and they can see things differently. So it just makes us more well-rounded.
The thing I know, so I mentioned that, there's, the way I summarize it is there's a certain point, and this was at the tech shop in San Francisco, and we were doing our reality show there. It's in maker spaces, and it's just anywhere. There's a certain age where helping each other with projects, certainly, there's no big deal. And then everybody's helping out and everybody's having a good time and they're doing what they want to do. And then at some point, one morning, somebody wakes up and goes and says, "How you doing?" And it becomes a different social scene all of a sudden. And the young women I've talked to in my travels, they say, I don't want to deal with, I feel uncomfortable now. And it's not as much of a co-learning, collaborating space. It's more of a, let's just say it becomes a dating possibility, right? And I think that just breaks the whole model. So there's a time and a place, and that's not the place, I think. But I had the good fortune to participate in a hackathon at Mount Holyoke College. Are you familiar? It's a small school.
No.
So it's an all-woman school, and they had a hackathon. Their goal was to have 50% of each gender participate. And it was 10 years ago, so we'll just keep it as simply as men and women. At the time, that was fine, and they did achieve that, but half of the women that were participating didn't stay for the whole 2 days. And I spoke to the professor, Professor Audrey Lee St. John, who was wonderful. And she said, I hope they stay, but they don't, because there's just this weird social pressure to, they don't feel comfortable, whatever it was. And I had never really thought about it, but I think there have to be fewer barriers and more access at younger ages, I think, to help just establish the fact that there is no reason to prevent half of the population from expressing their brilliance, right? That doesn't make any sense. It's not sustainable. So
I think
hopefully.
Sometimes too, it just happens naturally too, with the way that our brains just work a little bit differently. In our after school, in our mentorship program for the middle school kids, the first week or so, we ended up with 25 kids, and all of them were boys.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in here, they're loud, they're, having a lot of fun, but gaming is something that's a little bit more seen, and maybe just because, men just tend to be a little bit more critical thinkers, and I don't know if that's the right word. Boys have to be doing something. I have a son, and he's all over the place. He's got to be doing something all the time. Versus my nieces, you can ask my nieces to sit down and wait a lot better. And so when they're younger, they just move differently and act a little bit different. So with the girls, though, they want to socialize. They don't want to play a game and just do things a little bit differently. So what we started to notice is we had to kind of offer different experiences to invite the young ladies into the building, the same as we were getting all the young boys into the building. So I think some of that just happens because they just think differently. And
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm no child psychologist, and everybody's a little bit different. I think, in my estimation. So I am a big fan of enabling, and then let the children, the kids, let them say, I'm interested in this, and not say, nope, sorry, you can't do that. Instead, it's like, okay, try it. Right? I mean,
Yep.
And so at the second Hack Holyoke event, which they also did have about half and half, Lindsay Scott was there, and she had a very interesting story. She is a programmer who is also a model, and I think now an actress. And so, of course, how would she be identified? As a model. And she said, well, actually, I'm an iPhone app developer, and I have apps out there, and but I also happen to model. But she gets identified first as a model, like, oh, what? You're a programmer too? How does that work? So people they can't fit those two thoughts in their head. So that's just a social thing that when more, I think my theory, I'm completely unqualified to offer this, but I will say it anyway. I think the more young people have an opportunity to work together and to realize that these things don't matter when it comes to ideas and building things and being creative, hopefully that will carry through later when they're in the workplace, when they're in college or other education, and just throughout, just say, oh, that's right. It doesn't really matter. You have a good idea. That's the important part, right?
Absolutely.
So well, I hope that continues. And again, like I said, that's why I like all the hackathons, all the events I do are all any age friendly, because I would love to see more young people interacting with older people, just so there's a social dynamic, that mentor/mentee, or just being a conversant across the years. I think that's valuable, but also obviously any kid is welcome, but that's where ideas start, and that's where the ability to be excited about having ideas starts too. So that's how I got started, and hopefully I can be a part of that. And hopefully you are too. So obviously though, the facility is excellent. It's cool. I've been there. I think the first thing I asked when I saw you was, can we do hackathons here? So what are your thoughts on that? Do you know what a hackathon is? Have you ever been?
So I did not know what a hackathon was. And then one of our staff members, she was looking for an event to do, and she goes, I've decided I want to do a hackathon. And so we're actually working on putting one together, and she's like, it starts with a problem or an idea. And so she kind of explained it to me a little bit, but I've never actually been to a hackathon or witnessed one.
Yeah. I've been to 47 of all shapes and sizes, and the take home is there's really no wrong answer. A hackathon can be 1 hour, it can be 3 days, it could be a 5-day innovation sprint, it can be 2-week agile sprint. So a hackathon really is like it could be mildly competitive, like not stressful enough to cause problems, but a little competition. Maybe there's a prize, maybe there isn't, but hopefully it's people wanting to just try ideas and collaborate. And the real value, as we talked about earlier, is at the end, when you can actually say, oh, look, we did this thing, right? If you fail after the end, it's kind of that's no good. So achievable goal. Sometimes there's a single project to aim for. Sometimes it's open season, like at the ukulele drone thing. So yeah, every time I went, I learned more than the young people did, and then young people of all ages. Like I said, I think they're great. I wish more people would take part in them, and I'm offering any help I can give in making your first hackathon successful, and any after. And hopefully we can have hackathons there as well for some of our projects and stuff. So when is the hackathon?
We haven't set a date. We literally, she started working on planning it this week. So
Okay.
We'll definitely reach out, and we welcome any type of support you can provide. So that'll be a great opportunity for us.
Depending on the target age, it sounds horrible, the target age group of your event, but younger people, it would be ideally they will have a time at the end where they're like, I want to do this again, right? So make it slightly easy to do something that's rewarding. But really, you can turn it into like, hey, let's come up with an idea to change the world. and we'll try to do it over the weekend. And it sounds ridiculous, but a couple of whiteboard or dry erase markers and some interested people, you can do a lot. And if you actually happen to have some electronics or a 3D printer handy or what, I always make this analogy since we talked about Legos. If you spread a bunch of Legos out on a table, the people that will just start building, they just start putting Legos together and they're like, what are we supposed to be doing? You're like, you're already doing it. Like those are the kinds of people that make hackathons exciting almost. Like, wow, look at it. We just came up with this just now. And a lot of potential. And I think you'll start to see some little rock star future entrepreneurs emerge. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, we're planning on including it in the month of July with our National Parks and Rec Month celebrations. So that way we can tie it into a Parks and Rec focus. We haven't narrowed down a topic, but some of the ideas we threw out there was to have the kids, I say kids, but I don't think that we've narrowed down our target age group for that yet. So it could be teens, but we were looking at
kids of all ages. Kids of all ages.
Kids of all ages. Like redesigning a park or coming up with something that encourages conservation. So we've just kind of been playing around with ideas. We should probably finalize it in about the next week or so and then kind of go from there.
That's great. And you have, it's always fun to have a hackathon when you have a budget. Like if you want to, when I worked for Intel, we used to bring, luckily not in our luggage, but we would ship ahead of time, just boxes of sensors and hardware to play with. Intel being a hardware company with a lot of money. So people would show up and just like, oh, I get a free one of these and a bunch of those. And they would sit there all weekend and build. In fact, I'll tell you, I mentioned the 70-year-old couple that came to our hackathon in Cambridge. They said we were at a hotel one time and there was a fire and we couldn't, they either left their phone in the room or something and they couldn't tell their kids that they were okay. So they spent the weekend learning how to make a computer controlled smoke detector that would automatically notify their kids if there was smoke. And they said, we had this problem and we're going to try to learn how to solve it. And they did. And by the end of the weekend, they had a working smoke detector / messenger to notify their kids that they were, getting out of the room and all that stuff. So what's a better story than that? Doesn't matter how old you are. Cool. You can, just make your idea into something. And I think that I cannot speak highly enough of that, right? That is how, when a young person learns how to add two numbers, 1 + 1, you're like, oh, now I can do math. I want to build a thing that's detects smoke okay, now I did it. Now I know how to do this. And that's the beginning of the next thing, right? So it's really cool. I mean, I can't, I know I sound like I'm walking down memory lane now, but it's totally fun to watch people doing that or to do it yourself even. By the way, are you going to participate?
Yes.
All right.
So my background is not in technology. I have a Parks and Rec background and I've been in recreation for all of my life. And so when I took on this project, I was involved in the construction of another facility like about 12, 13 years ago. And then we converted. I was also involved in another community center when we converted that space we took an underutilized game room and converted it to an eSports space. And I was overseeing that facility at the time. So I came into this project with a little bit of knowledge. Obviously, I understood the recreation side. I understood the capital project side of it, and I had the eSports background. So as I've gone along with everything else that we have in here, I've relied on my team because they have the background and knowledge, but I'm like, okay, now teach me how to do that. Teach me how this works. And it's actually worked out super well because they're experts in what they do. Philip and Jasmine, I don't give them enough credit because they have definitely helped us get this building up off the ground because it is their ideas that we're implementing. And it's it's been amazing, but they've been great with me at teaching me all of the different things. I have learned how to 3D print. I am learning along, and I was probably their most frustrating student when we were learning the drones because we could not get my drone up off the ground and they had to troubleshoot and I had to literally learn every aspect of it with them. But it's really cool to have that opportunity to come to work and learn something new this far into my career.
You see, everybody should have that opportunity at least, and hopefully kids of all ages will include the parent. I always say kids of all ages and bring your parents, so just in case, right? Hopefully parents will also say like, I can do that too. And as you know you understand something when you can teach it, so by you learning it, and then now you can teach the kids when they're, so I think it'll be a nice little feedback loop, and you'll be the better for it. And I will tell you also, I think so I used to work for Intel, like I said, and the people at Intel were never exposed to the people using the Intel products. I think that's true of a lot of big companies. So when you actually interact with the student or the person using your facility, right, you're running the place, but you're also kind of participating and making use of it yourself. So when you're sitting next to people and you're like, what do you think of this place? And they might say, I wish there was something. And you'll say, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. So you actually get that real education. You will learn along with everybody else, which is not always recognized, but it's I found that to be true.
Yes, and there's a lot to be said for that. When so I shared I got this last year in March, and at the time, I was given a budget to put all of the components that would be in the facility, all of the equipment, all of that. And I didn't even know, I knew for the eSports where to start because I'd already done that before, but everything else that we had going into this facility, I didn't even know where to start. So I started going to like the Children's Discovery Museum because they had the 3D print workshops there, and taking a class. And then the library district has the teen tech labs within. So I went out there and I met their team and I got to experience some of the things that they had. And that was the first experience that we had with like the music recording component. And I just started going out into the community to see what was there so that we could decide what was going to be the better use of our funding, what was going to bring us the most opportunities for our different programming. So it really came from the interactions that I was having with the community and with other entities that were already doing some component of what we were looking to get into. And then even once we hired some of our staff, they came with a whole new set of ideas. And so we were able to really pivot. So we put a lot of energy into making this space one that could attract not just all ages, but people with different type of interests. Like we're still offering, we have kids that are playing football, which isn't a technology-based program, but it is still a recreational program that, not everybody is going to want to buy into all of the technology elements that we have. So we're still able to offer them traditional recreational options.
Sure, but at some point, someone will say, hey, I can put a little accelerometer on the ball and measure how fast or how fast you're throwing it, right? Or I can measure impact. There's actually if you find children or young people that are interested at that age in like, hey, yeah, what happens when I hit another person, when I'm tackling or I'm blocking, you can actually put sensors and measure. And there's real research happening on head injuries and concussions and worse. And when we did our reality show on TV, one of the teams was building a sensor. It was about the size of like I can't say a silver dollar because nobody knows what that is, but it was like a 1-inch diameter little disc, and it had an accelerometer, and it would go in the back of the helmet, and it would measure different torques and just like what the forces were on the head while playing football. So if you develop that interest early in that sort of biomechanical research, like what's happening to the human body, and what you can do, and it's as fun as just playing a sport, except you can actually, just like watching the game tapes. Now you can look at the acceleration of the helmet and the head that's in it, hopefully. And but I think there's a lot of hidden intersection that kids can discover, maybe on their own or maybe with some hints. There'll be some aha moments, which are that's where the learning really begins.
Yes, absolutely.
And so you mentioned the Jarl, I think it was the
Yelp.
Yelp. Sorry, Jarl. I just made that word up. Yelp. So do those interface, or can they, like you said, from inside to outside? Can I build a thing that reacts in some way to the equipment? Is there like an API or can I? Go ahead. Sorry.
On the Yelp, we do have the ability to modify the games from a management perspective. We can change the games, all of those things. But where I see, and I haven't had too many conversations with the parent company of that, but there is an ability to request custom games. So the way that I see it is that down the road, we may actually have the ability to have the kids or young people, it could be an adult to be honest, to have our participants design a game that we submit to them that they can actually push out to our system. So I do believe we do have the ability to do that with the custom games function. We just haven't worked in it long enough for me to speak to that too much. But I'm sure during a hackathon, somebody could figure out how to do that.
Famous last words. I think as time progresses and as people, the kids of all ages, as they start to realize that, I can fiddle with that and make it do something else. And there's countless examples of anytime you see the word hack, right, when it's not hacking into a bank. It's unfortunate that word is taken on that sort of criminal meaning, but a hack is sometimes just taking something and making it do something else, right? IKEA furniture hacks or food hacks or something. So yeah, if I can take the equipment outside, or the football, like I said, or the helmet, and say, if we add a thing here, if I 3D print a little doohickey, I can add it. Doohickey is a technical term, by the way. You just add it onto a helmet or onto wear it around your wrist, or and again, I just can't emphasize enough. That's where things start. My mom taught me how to read when I was 2, and that was one of the fundamental. Now I can start learning things as fast as I can read. And so once you learn how to do the beginning part, you get to the middle and the next part after that much more quickly. And I think I can't emphasize this enough. These are the exciting beginnings that you are a part of. So congratulations on that.
I think too. Well, thank you. The other thing is that it's the day and age that we live in. It's unrealistic to think that they're never going to need to use technology. I mean, it's been around for so long, and unless they're going to live off the grid in some remote desert area, which it's not the majority of people that are living that way, technology plays a role in everybody's life. And so whether it be like a simple smartphone class where we teach someone who's older, how to make a FaceTime call, or we teach kids and teens and adults how to code and build a game, or how circuits work. Everything that we offer here, they're going to need in life at some point, somewhere.
Yes.
And that's the really cool thing about what we're doing is, even if it is, in the football example, where they're here playing football outside, but maybe when they're tired and come in for a break, they sit down and participate in one of our robotics classes, or they just get an exposure into something that they're going to need. Everybody needs technology. We're in we're not going backwards.
That is true. And yeah, just generally, I think maybe some of the older folks like myself here, if you're not embroiled in tech as I have been forever, oh, I don't understand how that works, or I don't. I mean, you could make an analogy about driving a standard transmission versus an automatic if they're still around. Oh, I don't drive stick shift. So you've kind of left yourself out of some of the vehicles that can be driven. So if you don't understand certain technologies or certain, the blockchain is this mystery that's cost people lots of money, or maybe the latest AI thing, like, can it do my homework? Well, there are some things you have to, so being aware of how things function at least, and the earlier you're exposed to that, the better. So, and the earlier you can put it to use. My reading example, merely learning how to read is one thing, but proactively, are you familiar with Bloom's taxonomy?
With what?
It's called Bloom's taxonomy, and I don't remember the top, but the top 3 layers of Bloom's taxonomy are all about like creating original things. So when you learn how to do the basics like reading and writing and arithmetic, like the 3 R's, the next 3 levels are where you take those ideas and do things on your own. You start inventing things, you start discovering or creating new works based on what you've learned. So the sooner you're able to do that, I think the more fruitful the next steps of education are, because now you can start creating your own things, right? So once you learn how to read, then you can learn how to read, or you can read to learn how to build a robot, right? You can actually start learning at your own pace and whatnot. So the more hands-on, the more abilities you get earlier on, whether it's building a robot or how to apply physical sports. I mean, you could, a person that's into football might want to build a robot that throws a thing, right? Throw it like an arm that will throw a football, and they'll learn all about ballistics, like try to get the football through a target. Now you have to do some math. You have to do some motor control, all that. So it all comes together.
It's funny because a few weeks ago, we did a staff engagement event internally for our Parks and Rec team. Like I said, we've had a lot of retirements and people promoting up and all of that. So we've got a lot of new individuals. So we did a staff engagement event, and one of the staff members that I was working as part of that event, we had an eSports Madden tournament, and he had set up this like beautiful bracket based on who said that they were coming. And he used an online platform, and I don't even remember which one it was. And I looked at him and I said, I know how this goes, and people get busy or an emergency comes up. Can you bracket by hand? And because I came up through eSports before there were online tools, and I had to learn how to just bracket on a piece of paper. And he's like, oh, yeah. But I don't think he really understood, because he's obviously younger and one of our newer employees. And he's like, oh, yeah, I can bracket by hand. And I don't think he understood, if he had to create a full bracket off the top of his head, and it was nothing like what he started with. Well, he started out with 30 people, and they were in this software, and the bracket was ready to go. And then when it was time to actually start the tournament, it was not all 30 people, and it was like a different 12, and people were coming in and out because it's a staff engagement event. So there was a kickball game going on, so they're migrating out there. They're migrating into another space to grab food. It was just a lot going on, and his bracket was not working because there was too much change. So I was like, look, I got your back. I'm like, I don't know about Madden, but I can bracket by hand. So I literally just threw up a bracket on a dry erase board, and I started from scratch. So when you're talking about the 3 R's and understanding the fundamentals, there is a need to understand how to do the manual process so that you can better utilize the technology-based methods too. And there's a happy medium between the two, but that was the funniest example that I could think of he had prepared and he had it ready, and then was like, what do I do now?
Well, I don't want to promote violence here, but are you familiar with the Mike Tyson quote about having a plan?
Oh,
do you
yeah.
know that one? Yeah, I don't want to. I mean, so everybody has a plan until it's something you get hit in the face. So yeah, and when you get a surprise, well, I tell people I moved to Vegas when I had a house fire. I was not planning on having a house fire. So every once in a while, you have to pivot. You have to roll with the punches. You have to deal with what's happening. And the more capable you are of pivoting, or of, I mean, that's going to be a life skill in general. You have to be able to learn on your feet, if you will. And so the more, all these things feedback. I mean, at some point we were just saying the same thing over and over, which is it's important for people to learn how to do things, and you're doing that, as are all teachers and all educators and all that stuff. So, but yeah. So do you? Obviously, this is not something you and I could even have any insights into. But what do you? If you had to guess, will there be other versions of this center elsewhere around the city, or in the even outside of the city?
Oh, I definitely think that there would be. We've had so many other public agencies that have reached out to us, that have taken tours of the facility, that have, like, it's a very well-rounded model. And so it's definitely, I think, like a really strong indicator of the direction that we'll move towards in the future. And I know that for the city of Las Vegas in particular, we were already embracing the technology space. We just did not have a dedicated tech center. So we have eSports within 2 of our other community centers. We offer, like I said earlier in the conversation, we offer STEAM and STEM programming, little bits here and there throughout our facilities. So to be able to actually have like a dedicated tech center is brilliant. And I don't say it just because it's our project. I say it because I really do believe that this is the way to go. And so it only makes sense that as we start to look at future projects, that this would be the same or a similar model that people would follow.
Right. Well, I would hope so. Yeah. I guess I know it's already been a little over an hour. I don't know how much time I can steal from you, but the thing I noticed, we can reach an end to this if you want. But the thing I noticed for Innovate for Vegas, we started out as Code for Vegas. I actually encountered a lot more people than I would have thought who said, "Well, I'm not a coder, so this isn't for me." And I said, "That's not true." So, Las Vegas has an innovation district, an innovation center. So I said, let's change it. Innovate for Vegas. It's more agnostic, a larger tent, if you will. And so we're trying to encourage people who don't call themselves coders, so to speak, but who are interested in human experience, human interaction, user experience, as they say, the visual parts, the audio parts, so the media stuff that you have there available is part of, you don't have to be a coder. You can still create useful video, audio content to help people, to direct them, to educate them, to entertain them. So yeah, not everything is code. And sometimes people will mistakenly believe that you must be a coder or be a programmer of some kind in tech and engineering, or otherwise you're not included. And I think that's a mistake. So hopefully people will see the value of all participation. And it sounds like you're encouraging that too. So
we do, and we actually, I mean, even beyond that, we have a class now where there's kids that are in here like making songs, and we have staff that's like taking them through recording their vocals, or like listening to different beats and showing them how to edit that using like actual studio software. And I mean, they're not coding. They're taking like natural talents like singing and having rhythm, right, and turning that into something as well. So it's what you said is exactly important, that this isn't just coding. There's so many other things that go into a tech center.
Yeah, and I hope people will remember that with this Chat GPT taking over the world, and like, I don't have to write or do anything. I can just like, no, you still have to know how these things work. So yeah, hopefully
The
hopefully
output's only as good as the input.
That's right. Exactly. And hopefully people will remember that when they go, what's this output is junk. Like, well, you got to pay attention. You got to be part of it. Don't hand everything over. But that will be a learning experience for everybody. So like I said, it's already been an hour. I've taken up a nice chunk of your day. You work on Friday as everybody normal people do. Some city employees get the day off. But I definitely appreciate it. Hopefully this is part one of an ongoing conversation. And like I said, I hope I can help out in some way with the hackathon coming up.
Okay. Thank you.
And
thank you for having us and for reaching out. We are very excited for all of our future opportunities here at Becker. So,
as everyone should be, this is the children are our future. Children of all ages. Don't forget that. And parents and adults, go check it out too. Learning is still fun. I promise.
Yes.
So thank you, Priscilla. Thank you for your time, and thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you.